My topic for this video is how to have more energy when you're traveling with POTS and other chronic fatigue issues. This topic is very near and dear to my heart as I myself live with POTS, chronic fatigue, and hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, all that can make you very tired and can make travel quite interesting. It's a topic that I'm also passionate about as I work with individuals that have POTS to help them figure out how to rebuild their energy and thrive again in their lives. I've been there for many years, planning a trip, worrying that, am I even going to be able to go on this trip? Will I have enough energy when I'm there? And I know when I get back, I'm going to need days to recover. So is this even worth it? It can be done, and there are particular tips that can help you get there. The first big tip would be to consider what your schedule will be like on that trip. Are you going to be changing time zones? Are you going to be going to bed and getting up significantly differently than what you're typically used to? For those of us that have fatigue issues, when we start shifting our bedtime and our waking time, we can have almost kind of like a fatigue hangover that lingers with us for days and weeks. So if you know it's going to change, try to gradually go into a shift, just like some people do with daylight savings time. And if you can't, see if you can have a day when you get there on your trip to intentionally adjust and recover. And when you get back, kind of add on an extra day to your vacation to intentionally rest and recover. But gradually shifting your clock is really, in my experience and with working with clients, the easiest way to go so that you are not going to have that kind of hangover sensation. When you're traveling to and from, make sure that you have set times that you're going to rest, stretch, get a water break so that your blood doesn't continue to pool in your lower half. As those of us with POTS, we can have trouble with that blood volume returning to our brain and having more brain fog, higher heart rate, more muscle cramping, and potentially passing out if we don't keep that blood pumping throughout us with movement and keeping ourselves well hydrated. And another piece to consider into your schedule is make sure that you are practicing pacing. My prior video about this was very much in detail, so I'll just mention two big things about pacing. Pacing is all about allocating the energy that you do have on each day, in this case of your trip, to do what your priorities are or what your activities are and trying to match them and make decisions based on that. If you need to take something off of your list or off of your plate and do it on another day, and to decide what you value for that particular trip. Sightseeing everywhere and ending up utterly exhausted probably isn't going to be worth it. It would be better to really fully enjoy a couple main sites and look back on your trip and know that you were able to better pace yourself. The second part of pacing is knowing how to decelerate yourself or take that foot off the gas pedal of constant stimulation and go, 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 and plug yourself in and rest and recharge. For more details, see the video. The second tip, be mindful of eating and drinking like you normally do when you're at home. When we go on vacation, schedule changes, as I mentioned, but your eating and drinking can really change too. You typically kind of eat more junk food, processed foods, and you're not as focused on getting those whole nourishing foods to get in all of your macros, protein, healthy fats, and whole food carbohydrates. And if you have POTS or fatigue issues, your nervous system can actually go into more of a state of fight or flight if you are having a blood sugar roller coaster ride all day long. It's stressing your body out. That said, if you're becoming dehydrated, that can also send your nervous system into a state of stress mode and not getting in enough electrolytes. The electrolytes, big one for POTS to help with you retaining water or help with your fluid volume is sodium, but don't forget about the potassium, magnesium, and calcium. Taking along those little individual electrolyte packs, like most of them have, like LMNT or Vitasium, what's another one? Normalite, something that you can quickly put in a bottle of water to keep up that 2 liters plus a day can be super helpful. And something else to remember when you're traveling is that if you do have food sensitivities, which I've run into quite a few clients that have, I fall in that category too. If you start eating a food that you're either intolerant of, sensitive to, or actually have an allergic reaction to, that can really take your trip on a tailspin. So be mindful of what you're eating. It can be helpful to plan in advance as to where you're going to go and to take food with you that you know you won't react to, especially things that don't have to be refrigerated, like snack type foods. And if it's a short distance, like just going to the beach a couple of hours, taking a cooler can be well worth it so that when you get there, you don't have to stress about where, what, how you're going to prepare your food. It saved a lot of energy on my end for many trips. Another tip, and this for some might feel like it's the most important, I definitely think it's something to not throw off the wayside. Remember your sleep. Sleep is super important to restore the body and the mind. And if you already have fatigue issues and you suddenly shift to not getting enough sleep, that usually 7 to 9 hours, some people 9 plus, I fall in that category myself, you are going to start feeling very fatigued very quickly. That combined with a change in your schedule, your body isn't going to be able to necessarily keep up with the demands that you're trying to place upon it when you're traveling. So something that can be super helpful is to remember basic sleep hygiene. And this can be maybe a little harder if you're in a hotel room. So having a cutoff time of not doing activities anymore, turning off the TV, turning off the lights, not being loud, not talking, and just unwinding and having that dark space. Being dark, being cool, having not distracting sounds have kind of been the 3 major things that I go on for my own sleep hygiene. So earplugs, an eye mask, a fan, a noise machine, something along that lines. I even take an air purifier, but that's kind of a whole nother subject. But be prepared and consider either taking things with you in your luggage, or can you buy something cheap just to tide you over at your destination. Another big tip that is actually kind of tied back to the pacing part, but is super important to keep in mind, so I want to say it as a separate one. Continue to be mindful of the importance to slow down. Vacation technically should give you time to slow down, but for many of us, possibly it's more of a cultural thing in America, we tend to jam-pack our days and try to get everything in when we're on vacation and forget about that time of day that we really need to step back and regroup. And if you have a particular practice that you like to do, I really like breathing and meditation to help you slow down and regroup at different points in the day. Schedule that in and take time to do that. Realize that the whole point of your vacation is to enjoy yourself and to rejuvenate yourself and not drain your energy battery, to use that example, so badly that when you get back, you crash on the sofa. So that slowing down can be super helpful. And if you have a day where you're utterly exhausted on vacation, take total control of it and just say, it's cool, I'm fine. I'm going to be grateful for this moment that I have to slow down in this amazing new place that I'm in. That's where gratitude practice can really do a world of good, and it can really shift you into some great points of reflection. At least it did on some of the recent vacations I've been on. And my final tip is be mindful of the amount and type of activity that you are doing on your trip. So when you are navigating your life with POTS and fatigue issues, when you do a significantly different activity, like you do a lot of walking and standing, like when you're touring, or if you're going on a really long hike, that is going to be rather draining. Consider what type of activity you typically do. You may be more accustomed to swimming or biking, which can be very helpful when you have POTS, as your blood doesn't pool as much. So typically we don't swim to get to point A to point B on vacation, but see if you can do a biking tour instead of a walking tour. Or even if you need to save some more energy so that you're not as drained, consider doing like a trolley tour or a bus tour. You can still really enjoy a city or a place that you're in, and not have to physically walk or stand everywhere. Consider that doing a large volume of activity one day may need to be followed by a day of total rest to really slow down and integrate that restorative practice, like I mentioned, the breathing, the gratitude work. Or it could be as simple as just going to see a movie in the location you're in. That still counts. You're still enjoying your vacation, and it's still an activity. It's just the type and the amount of activity matter. Keep that in mind. And if you are interested in more tips on how to manage your energy when you travel, and specifically to how to continuously rebuild your energy to get back to thriving in your life, living with POTS and chronic fatigue, drop a comment below this video or reach out to me directly at guide2resilience.com.